my eyesight. I've never used it before.
Greetings, Saints. This is Salt from Salt Radio Ministries talking to you tonight about the Black Star, the Black Sun, sometimes known as the Black Hole Sun, and all that I've discovered in the last several weeks regarding the occult activity that is aligning itself with the Great American Solar Eclipse taking place on August 21st, 2017. Hopefully this video will offer some thought-provoking insight to what I believe to be the current phase in Luciferian occult activity and ritual, which many of us know is directly linked to the New World Order Globalist agenda that seems to be aligning itself or attaching itself to this Great American Solar Eclipse event taking place in August of this year. All of this activity has been ramping up and increasing in intensity in plain sight for a very long time. The cult of the Black Sun is not new, and I'm going to show you that here in this video, but they're really pushing it hard and fast in everyone's face because they know their time is short. And for those who aren't fully aware of Satan's time constraint or simply in denial about it, they're still led and compelled by him, all working diligently to get the globalist government New World Order implemented as fast as possible. We know why, Satan knows why, the globalist elite know why. The goats, however, well, they're just falling prey to their lawlessness and lust-filled carnality, the natural consequence of the reprobate mind through godlessness and love for the beast world system. Everything that's happening in the world right now, the big push for global governance and currency, is all working toward one goal: to make way for the Antichrist who will assume control of the entire world. If you think climate change and Paris Accord is actually about saving the environment, you have a lot of homework to do. The world will be charging itself onward with the globalists' hands on the levers of control and the UN as its storefront to create a communist, socialist, Neo-Marxist one-world government. And when that is achieved, the Antichrist will enter the scene. If you've ever wondered what the world will be like when the Antichrist hits the scene, this is it. Listen, Saints, the best Donald Trump can offer us is a stay at liberty for another 3.5 years. We know where the world is headed, so don't fool yourself that any human power can gain victory over this beast. There is only one who has the power and authority to do that, and his name is Jesus. But the Black Sun occult symbology and the Neo-Marxist globalist agenda, which go hand in hand, is showing up all over the place, and it seems to crescendo at the Great American Solar Eclipse event in August of this year, which incidentally falls exactly one lunar month before the great sign of Revelation 12 that takes place on September 23rd of this year, an enormous biblical prophetic sign that will appear in the sky on that date. Before I get into the occult aspect of this video, take a look at the Great American Solar Eclipse. On August 21st, 2017, Americans will have a rare opportunity to witness a total solar eclipse from almost everywhere in the country. This marks the first total solar eclipse in almost 40 years to be visible in the United States. What is spectacular about this eclipse is that it will be visible from Oregon to South Carolina, forging a path approximately 70 miles wide. This is a coast-to-coast path where totality of the eclipse will be visible. August 21st, 2017 will be the first time in 99 years where totality of the solar eclipse will be visible in the United States. According to Space.com, the fact that total solar eclipses occur at all is a quirk of cosmic geometry. The moon orbits an average of 239,000 miles from Earth, just the right distance to seem the same size in the sky as the much larger sun. But most solar eclipses are of the partial variety, in which the moon appears to take a bite out of the sun's disk. Indeed, 2 of 5 solar eclipses occur every year on average. Total eclipses happen just once every 18 months or so. Eclipses are relatively rare because the moon's orbit is inclined about 5 degrees relative to that of Earth. If the two bodies orbited in exactly the same plane, the solar eclipse would occur every month during the moon's new phase. Furthermore, the narrow path of totality is often inaccessible to sky watchers. Most of Earth is covered by water, so a total solar eclipse that occurs over populated areas is quite special. Indeed, the August 2017 event will be the first one whose totality path lies completely within the United States since 1776. 1776, the year America gained its independence. The path of totality will cross over 12 states. And what's interesting is that 12 million people or so live within that narrow band. 12 the number of God's government. For those of us who watch the prophetic signs in the sky, I wanted to look into this eclipse event a little more. We know that the blood moons from 2014 to 2015 all fell on Jewish feast days, an unprecedented fulfillment of prophecy in itself. And don't forget the 2 total solar eclipses that fell smack dab in the middle and at the end of the 4 blood moons on March 20th, 2015 and September 13th, 2015, respectively. To have all of these blood moons and total eclipses fall on these high holy days in succession is clearly a prophetic sign that should not be ignored. I first became curious about the Black Sun symbolism when David Bowie came out with his Black Star album right before his death in January of this year. A lifetime fan of Bowie, of course, I thoroughly realize he's a Luciferian who openly proclaimed his allegiance to Luciferianism and ancient occult practices like Kabbalah and Aleister Crowley. So when I view David's work, I view it through the lens for what it is, dark art that's fraught with occult symbolism from the Luciferian point of view. The album Black Star, with the single of the same name, is one deeply symbolic and compelling display of Bowie's last message to the world at the point before his demise, a signal or beacon to something which can only be sinister in its meaning. Bowie has always used his art to convey a message, as most, if not all, artists do. And it would be impossible to understand where Bowie is coming from if you do not realize his core belief system and worldview. Basic Luciferianism is the idea of sympathy for the devil. It's the idea that Lucifer got the raw end of the deal. He's the scapegoat, the one promised the world and sacrificed everything just because he wanted to enlighten God's creation, mankind, and give them godlike status. Luciferianism is based on the lie that the devil is the good guy, God is the tyrannical, unfair monster, and Jesus was sent to remove Lucifer from his rightful station as Messiah and God of this earth. What Luciferians fail to accept is that Lucifer is fallen, and any good standing he once had is gone and gone forever. He did not desire to enlighten mankind with great divine knowledge. That was a very subtle and seductive trick. He knew exactly what he was doing in the garden, which was to seduce Adam and Eve with the idea of becoming their own God, to reject the Most High God, and to rebel against him. But Luciferians don't look at that part of the story where Lucifer fell, and fell for good reason. They believe the devil is good, the one who advocates for mankind, who desires to bring us total enlightenment, knowledge, wisdom, and godlike status right here on earth. Beside the Black Star, eclipse sun symbolism, and imagery in Bowie's video, one other main component that I found fascinating was the skull of Major Tom, the deceased astronaut who can only be interpreted as Lucifer himself. We are led to believe that Major Tom is indeed Bowie, who has passed away, and his skull, which is encrusted with fine jewels, is preserved for a ritual that is witnessed later in this video. But the astronaut is not Bowie, even in Bowie's own interpretation. The astronaut is none other than Lucifer, still in his covering of fine jewels that is spoken of in the book of Ezekiel 28, verses 13 through 15. Lucifer floating toward the Black Star is symbolic of Lucifer dying to his former self and will soon emerge in his rightful place. The story that Bowie unfolds with Black Star is in the Villa of Ormond, which means House of the Serpent, where a solitary candle burns, one source of light at its center. He goes on to say, on the day of execution, only women kneel and smile at the center of it all. The day of execution is Christ's death on the cross. Commemorating this day, the Coven of Witches will execute a ritual which is at the center of the Villa of Ormond, or the House of the Serpent. He continues, something happened on the day he died. Spirit rose a meter, then stepped aside. Somebody else took his place and bravely cried, I'm a Black Star. Bowie is stating clearly here that on the day Jesus died, his spirit rose up and then stepped aside so that Lucifer can step into his place. Bowie goes on to ask, how many times does an angel fall? How many people lie instead of talking tall? He trod on sacred ground, he cried loud into the crowd, I'm a Black Star, I'm not a gangster. In other words, how many times does Lucifer fall? According to scripture, it's only once, and that's it. While the coven performs the ritual, a demon is conjured. Bowie seems to have no difficulty portraying Jesus as the straw man in a blasphemous scene of the crucifixion. What is compelling, however, is that Bowie, who portrays a Luciferian preacher of sorts, waves the Book of the Black Star across his face as the ritual is underway and the demon is conjured. The wave resembles the path of the solar eclipse as it moves across the sky, as it will on August of this year. Something is set to happen at the point of this eclipse. Bowie knew it, as did many others, which I will show as we move forward in this video. Chris Cornell, also a Luciferian of the Black Sun cult, passed away on May 18, 2017, in what is being reported as a suicide by hanging. Cornell has forged a decades-long successful music career as a prolific songwriter, musician, and performer in the bands Soundgarden, Audioslave, and more recently as a solo artist. A lifelong fan of Cornell, as with Bowie, I've always recognized the dark nature of the message in his art. Songs like Jesus Christ Pose and Black Hole Sun are two of Cornell's signature hits. What is compelling about Cornell's death is that for weeks prior I kept hearing Black Hole Sun re-emerge in radio circulation. Cornell showed no evidence of drug or alcohol relapse, appeared in the public eye as a vibrant, healthy, and happy person enjoying this new chapter in his family life and career. So to hear of a sudden suicide sent his fans, myself included, into shock and dismay. It's further mysterious that on the day he died, hours prior, he did not seem himself and appeared to be under the influence of something that left most of his onlookers wondering what was going on. This was seemingly out of character for Cornell, at least at this point in his life and career. So to see him on stage obviously impaired was disturbing, to say the least. It would be only hours after his final performance that he would be found dead by hanging in his hotel room with no warning, no suicide note, nothing. Toxicology reports claim that while there were prescription drugs in his system, they were not the cause of his death. Strange. His wife made statements to the public claiming outrage for prescription anti-anxiety medications that were said to cause suicidal thoughts in some patients. Ativan, the drug prescribed to Cornell, is not typically considered one of these drugs unless severely abused and misused for a prolonged period of time, and even with that, it is rare in the extreme to have suicidal thoughts. Considering that Cornell is the artist who created Black Hole Sun, a song that is timeless in its emotional impact and lyrical content, would suddenly die by mysterious causes in May of this year, the spring before the great eclipse that would come this fall. When researching material for this video, I came across a song that Cornell wrote that was released in September of 2015 titled Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart, a solo project for an album called Every Time I Stare Into the Sun. In this video, Cornell's character is in line to be hung in the town square of an Old West town with a few other men. His wife passes a mysterious bottle of some elixir to the woman executioner, pours it onto Cornell's rope right before it tightens around his neck. His wife is shown in the audience expressing feigned anguish and an almost erotic enjoyment of the entire event. After the floor drops out and Cornell is hung, a wagon carries his body away from the scene and dumps him onto the ground. Cornell is not dead at all, as the elixir obviously allowed him to live. What's curious is that the executioner is there to collect her pay, which is to become his bride immediately after the event. Now you tell me, is it not a bit too ironic that one of the last songs Cornell would write would be of his own hanging, which was fake, that his wife was part of the scheme, and that the executioner expects to be paid immediately after the ruse was successful? We all realize that with the election of Donald Trump as the president, that a globalist coup executed by the deep state has been unleashed upon the world. One would have to be completely brain dead or brainwashed or both to not see that the Neo-Marxist communist socialist overlords have manufactured an expertly devised campaign to resist Trump and his voting base at every turn. In this diesel commercial, the neo-Marxist utopia is cleverly portrayed using Trump's wall as the stumbling block between a conservative world and the neo-Marxist utopia where everything and anything goes. The wall is a symbol for the old way, and the youth in this story break through the wall to achieve their goal, the goal of the free world without any constraint. What is interesting, however, is the male model who stands alone on one side of the wall has a tattoo on his stomach of the Nazi Black Sun occult symbol. The irony here is that these are the people who see Trump as the Nazi figure and the wall as a form of fascism. Yet this male model is wearing a Nazi occult symbol that takes up a large portion of his upper body. What is represented here are two things. This population of young people represent the new world. The Neo-Marxist world is the home of the superior race. In this utopia, the lawless and godless are the superior race in a utopian world, and they will break down any barrier to achieve it. The timing of this commercial is pivotal. The model wears the symbol of the black sun on one side of Trump's wall, which is scheduled to build at any time in the very near future. Perhaps the mindset of the breaking down of this wall, which is symbolized here on many levels, will take place at the time of the Great American Solar Eclipse.
Last aspect of occultism I want to touch on is dark occultism. I'm not going to belabor this too long. I just want to really talk about who are these people that I refer to as the dark occultists. You can call them a million different names, folks. Doesn't matter what you call them. You can call them sorcerers. You can call them dark Luciferians, those who have the light and use it for dark purposes. They are Satanists, okay? They are Setians. They are the Klipotic Kabbalists. Klipoth is the region below the tree of life that is the hell world in the Kabbalistic tradition, that is the inversion of all the true teachings of Kabbalah, of the true moral lessons of the true tradition, esoteric tradition of Kabbalah. If you descend into the Klipotic realms, it's the wastelands, the lands of the spent and corrupted souls that are simply husks, that used to be souls and spirits that are just like, withered out husks, the wastelands, in other words. That's Klipotic Kabbalah. They are the dark Masons of the world. They are the dark Atonists. Aton was a variation of the sun or the light in the ancient Cometian tradition. Ultimately, it's all one cult, folks. It's the cult of the black sun. You could call them by any name you want, but they are a dark solar cult. When I say the dark sun, why the black or the dark sun? The sun represents light. It represents knowledge. It represents empowerment. It represents life. The antithesis of that, the total polar inversion of that, is it's still a form of light. It's still the sun, but it has darkness within it. So it's knowledge being used for all the wrong reasons. Knowledge being used to control, not enlighten, not uplift. Knowledge being used to put people in a prison. Knowledge being used to being used as a power differential over people who are still in a level of ignorance. So you're blinding people with that light, and you're enslaving them with it, with that knowledge. That's what these people are.
How about that first line of cocaine? That walk into a strange girl's bedroom. Familiar? You're gonna have to do a little better than that. I know. I'm just getting warmed up. You want more, don't you? You deserve more. How about the thing you love the most? Smile from a jury. Ooh, that cold courtroom just giving itself over. Bending to your strength. I get that on my own. Not like this. I take the bricks out of the briefcase. I give you pleasure. No strings. Guitars and steel guitars and luscious lips as red as wine.
Kevin, you don't know how hard it's been for me to wait for you.
Broke somebody's heart.
Okay? If you don't even want to look at it in esoteric terms, there are people with the knowledge of how the self works, meaning deep psychology, very ancient, deep knowledge of psychology, combined with people who know about how the laws of nature function, which is very deep, hidden science. That's it. There are the two sciences that are at work. The physical sciences combined with psychology. And then you put the understanding of how moral law functions into there, which they know as well, and rebel against because they want to be gods on earth and they want to conquer the natural law consequences or evade them to the longest amount of time that they possibly can. They're all the same cult. It doesn't make a difference who we're talking about here. You could be talking about Satanists, Setians, the worshippers of the Great Owl at Bohemian Grove, the Skull and Bones Order of Death, the cult of the Black Sun that came out of the Nazi and SS party of Germany. All right, in the modern day, they're top-level international bankers, top-level political figures, top-level financiers, high-level members of royalty, so-called royal families, judiciary, military, high-level military, people involved at highest levels of media, highest levels of medicine, highest levels of education, secret societies and fraternal orders, think tanks, intelligence agencies, you name it. This is where the highest concentration of dark occultists are at. This is who they are. This is how they operate in the world. These are the institutions who determine how people's lives will be run, because we let them. And at the top level of every one of these institutions, you're going to find the cult of the Black Sun operating.
And I looked, and beheld an angel, and in his right hand the key to the bottomless pit. These were the words I heard as a peasant boy in Tobolsk. And now, the door, sent by the Oktujaha, so that they might at long last enter our world.
You are the key, the right hand of doom. Imagine it. An Eden for you and her.
Open the door.
The eclipse has begun.
Your true name. Say it! Become the key.